The cartoon about a trio of kids who all conveniently have Ed in their name trying to pull off their next scam to get money for jawbreakers. I'm pretty sure people understand how this feels. I mean, Twitter always goes on about getting bread, so there's no way people can't relate to this. Joking aside, to be honest, who didn't try getting quarters at some point in their life? This cartoon also had a very unique animation style because it was all hand-drawn, even when other cartoons changed to digital methods. The movie, The Big Picture Show for this cartoon, is also done in hand-drawn animation, which is a lot of work. So, much praise to the animators. The sound effects for this show also became a really popular meme and is honestly one of my favorite memes because of how high effort it is. My most popular video on YouTube also happens to be one of these. I really shouldn't be bragging about that. Anyways, this cartoon first aired 20 years ago on January 4th, 1999. Goodness, I feel old. This cartoon has held a very special place in my heart, and I'm assuming yours too, considering you're watching this video. So, to celebrate a whopping 20 years since this cartoon began to exist, today we'll be looking at one of the video games that spawned off of this show, and the only one on consoles, Ed, Edd and Eddy, the Mis-Edventures. Edda and Eddy go around the cul-de-sac interacting with the other kids. That's about it. I wish I wasn't being as vague as I am. Trust me, the story segments usually isn't like this. However, the levels of the game act as if they are separate episodes and the plots of the stories don't interact with each other. On paper, this might sound bad, but it makes a lot of sense because that's basically how it worked in the show as well. The plots between everything wasn't too connected unless the time called for it, which even then was pretty rare. Overall, the stories are pretty typical for Edda and Eddy storylines, but are a lot shorter than actual episodes because most of the action takes place in the levels themselves. They are a lot better if you treat them like individual episodes rather than one connecting plot. The only issue is that really only one of these levels is an actual scam. Everything else is just more or less interactions with the other kids, like trying to get into a birthday party and going through an abandoned house. Now granted, there were episodes like that in the actual show, but considering that the characters themselves are known more for doing scams, you would kind of expect a lot more scams to be in the story. If you somehow haven't noticed yet, the models look very interesting. It's partly because the borderline changes all the time, which is also how it is in the show itself, so the art style stays true to the show. But the other part of why it looks interesting is because of some people's faces. I won't lie, they aren't the best in the world, mainly because some of them don't move much to try and show emotion. The 2D animated cutscenes don't have the same exaggerated or full-blown effort as the show, but they still have the borderline effect that the show is known for and still works well enough given that they are shorter and not a major part of the game. The music is also very similar to the show it's based off of. That's mainly because they are actually songs from particular episodes of the show, which is actually kinda interesting. To my knowledge, I don't really remember too many shows actually doing this unless it was actually just like the theme song that they took from the show and added it to the game, which a lot of games do. In addition to this, there's a lot of references from the show in this game. They are very subtle, but they are still there. You'd more than likely have to look some of them up though because of how subtle some of them are, or else you're not going to recognize them. Every voice actor returns for their roles in this game aside from Naz, but to be honest, you'll never notice the difference. I honestly don't remember Naz actually saying anything in this game, which is a little concerning. But even the voice of Plank reprises his role.
What's that, Plank? You want them to do what? Okay, buddy.
He gives quite a stellar performance, might I add. You're able to change between all three of the Eds. All of them have a standard attack, but they each have different abilities. Eddy has the El Mongo Stink Bomb that has enemies scattered from an area, and he can also vandalize objects. Double D has a slingshot which is useful for hitting targets and objects from a distance and can tinker with machines to make them useful in open areas. Ed is able to pick up objects with his immense anime strength and dig into sandboxes, which I'll explain more later. Alongside these abilities, each character has what I like to call, because there's not an actual name for these, triad moves that each have a purpose. You see what I did there with the word triad and how people, I will stop now. But you have to admit, that was pretty clever, and I had to make some form of Ed joke at some point. These moves require all 3 Eds to be available to use. Eddy has the Tower of Eddy, which can be used to grab high up items and walk along skinny platforms as a group. Double D has the Trample Ed. This gives Double D a boost so that he is able to get to areas no Ed can on their own and open up said areas for the others. Ed can use the Batter Ed, allowing the Eds to push objects, break down barriers, and is able to be used as the strongest attack against enemies. It's also really good for movement because it gives you a lot of speed. You will have to use all of these skills from the Ed boys to get through the levels and complete puzzles. By the way, you'll encounter plenty of enemies along the way, so you can collect blue orbs to get back health. You might have to be careful though, because you'll have to defeat enemies to get said health. There is more than just completing the puzzles that you can do. The prized possession of the Ed, Edd, and Eddy franchise, the Jawbreakers, are collectible in this game, which can be found in levels and secret areas, and some of them you must purchase in a giant Jawbreaker machine. This is located in the cul-de-sac and you'll need coins in order to use it. With every purchase, the amount of coins needed will increase, which is not how these machines work at all. This seems like a scam within itself, but whatever. Coins can be found by breaking boxes. There are sandboxes that Ed can dig in to get a piece of a costume. Collecting all the pieces of a costume gets you an extra level that corresponds with the costume that you completed. There are also chickens that you might stumble upon in levels. If you are able to grab a hold of these chickens before you run out of time, then you get an Easter egg which gives you cosmetic changes like big and small head mode, both of which is very, very frightening by the way, and special movies that you can watch around the cul-de-sac and movie booths. And one of them is really just weird.
I feel so naughty pining here for your happy face's guidance. My best friend Plank. My best friend Plank.
Yeah. I don't know why this is a thing. This game enforces the cooperation of this trio of Eds with plenty of needed moments to use the triad moves while still giving each character their own chance to shine with their own unique abilities. There's almost no point in time where it feels like a certain Ed is carrying weight over the others unless you're using the Trample Ed, which is intended to isolate an Ed for a short amount of time. If you're one who is an enthusiast of Ed, Edd, and Eddy, you'll more than likely notice the many small details that are callbacks to some episodes from the show, and even if you don't, they don't force references down your throat to make it obvious that there is a reference. Show material usage is nice too, due to the fact that every recurring character from the show is in this game. Some of them are given more screen time than others, but the show was like that too sometimes. Even the Tower of Eddy and the Batter Ed are taken from some episodes. I don't know about the Trample Ed though, but there's at least evidence of creative uses from the show involved for gameplay mechanics. Getting Jawbreakers into levels is fun because sometimes you'll actually have to be clever or put in effort to get them, and can't just rush through getting them. They also each have their own flavor, which doesn't exactly matter because you can't eat them, but just imagine how they taste. It at least makes the collectibles feel different. Digging through the sandboxes also has the benefit of the extra levels, which aesthetically and gameplay wise are completely different from the standard game. Plus, after getting 100% of the game, you get cheats that completely break the game, like stealth from everything and being able to kill everything with one hit. Both of these including bosses, and makes you extremely fast. This is also including the Batter Ed, so you will just suddenly go flying in one direction. I love stuff like this because it gives a point to collecting the collectibles and can be really fun to use. For all your hard work, you now get to just sit back and just have fun and be able to look at stuff. Going from level to level is difficult because it isn't clear which level is which. After beating a level, you are sent to the same spot, which games do all the time. A level opens in a location around the cul-de-sac, but the game doesn't show you where the level actually is. There are arrows indicating that that area is a level, however the location of the arrows are only at that location of the level itself. And again, the game doesn't show you where they are. They just appear out of nowhere. Approaching a level doesn't give you the title of said level either, so you'll have to memorize which level is which. And that isn't the easiest thing in the world because of the fact that you have to try and find the level in the first place. The AI for your partners can be really dumb. There are times where they're working just fine, but then they just suddenly shut down or something. They'll either get stuck in a place where they really shouldn't be able to get stuck, or they just run around in circles. You aren't even able to switch to these characters if they aren't nearby, so you can't move the person yourself. In a game where you need all three characters to do certain actions, it's very annoying for the game's pace to be stopped because you have to run back and get them. I have no idea why they just up and disappear, but it happens often enough to be a problem. This game is pretty short and I normally wouldn't comment too much on something like that, but even 100%ing this game doesn't take much time, especially if you know what you're doing. I got most of the percentage within about 3 hours and you are able to get everything on your first try. Now that part isn't bad, it's just that I feel like there could have been more added to the game, and if you don't care for the extra stuff like the jawbreakers or the costume, then this game will feel even shorter because that's 2 whole levels that's taken out of the game. With the game's stories being the way that they are, I feel like they could have done more with what they had. I feel like my attacks don't actually register sometimes or don't come out fast enough before I'm hit by my enemy. You can't just spam attacks though, so at some point you'll hit something. Something I should mention is that if you hit something from a big enough distance away from an object with Double D's slingshot, the object won't move until you get close to it, which is strange. It doesn't stop any progression, so it's not like that's important. I just felt like I should mention that. This game was pretty enjoyable to go through, even though the navigation and combat wasn't the greatest. The cooperation between all 3 of the Eds are clearly shown within this game, which is definitely what the game is trying to do. This game serves well for what it was trying to accomplish, but there could have just been more, and I'm mainly talking about the standard game. All the extra collectibles and the levels that you can get is fine. The representation of the show itself with references to characters and interactions of the Eds is very nice, as well as the aesthetic being clearly shown off. So the big question is, does this game do the 20-year-old cartoon justice? For what it was trying to accomplish, yes, but at the same time, again, there could still have been more to it. Overall, this game could have ended up being a lot worse than it actually ended up being, but at the same time, I am glad with the results that came from it. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you for making it to the end of this video. Now, in the past, in 2018, I did say that this game was a little bit wonky for me to try and do in some of my reviews, maybe, I'm not sure, but I did manage to find a way to actually be able to record this game, so thankfully I was able to do that, especially with the fact that the 20-year anniversary for this show actually, happened and all. I literally had to make this review in about 3 days, so if you feel like the content of this video isn't exactly on par with some of my previous ones, that's kind of why. But I absolutely had to do something for this cartoon because I absolutely love Ed, Edd n Eddy. This was one of my favorite cartoons to watch when I was younger, and being able to actually do something for the 20-year anniversary of Ed, Edd n Eddy really puts my heart at ease. And for some of you wondering why Scott Pilgrim vs. the World isn't actually the first review of 2018, which I said that I was going to be doing, is because of the fact that I was able to work out everything with Ed, Edd n Eddy. But don't worry, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World will actually be uploaded next week. I'll make sure to notify everyone about that. And so that you can be notified, make sure you go into the description where I have all of my social links. My Twitter, my Facebook, Instagram, and Discord are all in the description. So if you want to be notified of whenever I'm about to upload a video or what I plan on doing next, make sure you go and follow those. But as I said earlier, the next video I'm going to be doing will be Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But until the next video, take care.
I want you for a